Hi, and welcome to Sonic Sunday School. This week we're going to talk about an article that came out in the Washington Post last week about the slow death of the electric guitar. Let's see, I've got it up here. It's Why My Guitar Gently Weeps, the Slow Secret Death of the Six-String Electric, and Why You Should Care. Now, I know other people have done videos on this, but I thought I'd give my 2 cents. And I don't know that the electric guitar is actually going away or declining or dying. When I read the article, they talk to someone like George Gruen, and they talk about Clapton and Neil Young and the guys that are starting to retire. You know, they talk about how there are no guitar heroes anymore, but there are plenty of guys out there. I mean, you still got, how many people have started playing guitar because of Metallica? They're still playing, they're still touring, so I'm sure that there are still people picking up guitars. You know, they're touring with Avenged Sevenfold. I know Sinister Gates is really popular. You've got guys like Guthrie Govan. While he may not be a household name, if you start looking at guitar stuff online, you'll find it. And that's another thing that I think that whoever, the guy that wrote this article, who is, let's give him credit, it is Jeff Edgers. The whole landscape of music has changed. I mean, there was a time where you had to have a record company and a label deal to get your music out there. Well, that's not the case anymore. You know, record labels are going away because they're not needed. Everything's online now. You can record your own album, put it out, do all your publicity and everything online, and never have to hire somebody or have the backing. Granted, it's still expensive to do something like a big tour, but that's almost not even necessary with the internet. You know, you can have your website, or you can just put things all over YouTube. For example, look at I have several Chapman guitars, and the only reason I know about them is because of YouTube. You know, it's not like I walked into a store and found these. They're not played in a lot of, or they're not sold in a lot of locations. The internet. So I think that is one of the big reasons, people aren't seeing guitar heroes as household names where you've got guys like Clapton and whatnot. I mean, there will probably never be another Eddie Van Halen or Jimi Hendrix. Not because there aren't guys that are innovating, but the internet has kind of made the playing field a little more level. You know, these guys like Hendrix and Clapton and Neil Young all got huge pushes and all this publicity and magazines and things like that and radio play because they had deals. They had publicists and things like that. So the guitar hero, which this article says we need more of and that they're pretty much gone, is not gone. There are plenty of guys out there and ladies that are killing it. There's no shortage of guitar players, and just doing a basic look on YouTube, do a guitar search on YouTube, and there's so many videos, whether it be lessons, setups, reviews. I do reviews and lessons. I mean, my channel's not very big, but you do have some really big channels. You've got, Rob Scallon, Jared Dines, Music is Win, Philip McKnight, Chapman, and the Andertons videos. They all get tons and tons and tons of views. It's not going away. It's just changing. And, because they talk to somebody like George Gruen, or you look at something like Guitar Center, let's look at that first. Other than used gear, I haven't bought anything from Guitar Center in years. I have gone on their website. They have a really cool used section, but as far as brand new guitars, I haven't bought a brand new guitar from Guitar Center in many years. I've bought one guitar from Sweetwater, no, two guitars from Sweetwater, and one from a local shop. And the rest of them have been internet purchases. I've purchased from RNA Music in Texas. But, I haven't walked into a Guitar Center or Sam Ash. I haven't even walked into a Guitar Center or Sam Ash in well over a year. Part of that's because there's not one really close to me. I live outside of town. But even still, for me to drive an hour to Guitar Center or pop onto, Amazon. I've bought some pedals and things like that from Amazon. I know that, it's better to buy from stores and shops, but sometimes you have a gig coming up or something and you need it fast. And, if I order something, if I take the time to call, around to find the best price on something, or I can go into Amazon. I have Amazon Prime. I've got it in 2 days, be it a cable or whatever. So internet sales has, I think, taken a lot of the business away from some of the brick and mortar stores. We're all guilty of it. I even know guys that run shops that still order stuff online. It's just, it's convenience. And another thing, getting back to somebody like George Gruen or talking about some of these shops, yeah, a lot of the higher end guitars may not be purchased as much. And they're talking about over the past decade. Now, 10 years ago, it was a lot harder to find a decent guitar at a low price. Now, I found it interesting that the article only talked about money. And they talk about, let's see here. In the past decade, electric guitar sales have plummeted from about 1.5 million to 1 million. Now, what I find interesting in this article is they don't mention the number of units. Did the number of guitars decline, or did the cost decline? Where 10 years ago, if you wanted let's just say you were looking for a Strat, you were probably looking at buying, either a lower end Strat from Fender or maybe a high end Squier. I don't even know if they had high end Squiers like they do now at that point, but where you may have spent $500, $600 on that Strat, you can now walk in and buy, a classic Vibe for a few $100s less. Or, like the Affinity I did a review on last week, $200. Well, 10 years ago I might have spent $600. Now I spent $200. I still have a quality guitar, but it cost a lot less. Which means, the bottom line is going to go out from under. They also mentioned how there's so many more companies than there were. There was a point, and you had all these name brand companies that are sold at Guitar Center, Sam Ash, blah, blah, blah. Well, now there are little boutique companies or small starter companies. And, I think it's 8 Chapman guitars. Well, there's only a handful of dealers in the U.S. that you can buy Chapman guitars from. And none of them are Guitar Center or Sam Ash. So, they got my business, and Guitar Center didn't. When I went, a lot of the guitars I bought were, on sale here or there. Maybe it's something I'd been looking at, and it finally went on sale around Christmas. Yeah, so I, would buy. That's when I bought my Sterling. That's when I bought some of my Washburns. But that's another thing. They talk about Gibson and Fender not selling as much. Well, I'm not buying Gibson and Fenders. I mean, Gibson's quality control, I don't personally know, but everything I've read and seen videos of guys complaining that, Gibson's QC has gone, down the hole. So I'm not going to drop, you know, $2,000 on a Les Paul that is going to give me problems. I'm just not going to do it. So I bought, if I wanted a single cut guitar, which I was looking for, I bought a Washburn. Now I got one of the new Idols. It's still a mahogany body, maple top, it's basically a Les Paul. It just doesn't say Gibson on that stock. And I'm fine with that. Now, I guess Epiphone still is making some, their QC is still pretty high. But again, you've got lower price point. And I don't know if that's even counted in Gibson's, revenue. Because it's Epiphone. So they may be separated that way. And you've got, Fender and Squier. I haven't bought a Fender. Well, I take that back. I got a Fender last year or the year before. But, I bought a few Squiers. So, it doesn't mention that, we went from selling this many guitars to this many fewer guitars. It's cost. Where, if I bought 10 guitars at $600 10 years ago, and I bought that same amount of guitars at $300, well, that cuts everything in half. They still sold the same amount of units, and I still got the same amount of guitars. It just cost half the money. Because those guitars are coming up in quality that, unless you care about the name or you really, really want to have the name brand, if you're just looking for playability and sound and things like that, you can get it much cheaper. Look at Schecter. There are a lot of Schecter guitars out there, and they all play pretty nice. And you can get some of their lower end series for $300, $400 instead of spending $1,000. And it's just financially, it doesn't make sense to spend that kind of money when you don't have to. Of course, there are always going to be people that want to have, I've got to buy this PRS that's, several $1,000s. Fine, great. But there probably aren't as many people doing that because there's the, SE line, or I guess they kind of got rid of the SE line, but they still have that lower end line that you can buy, where, maybe you're spending $400 or $500 on, maybe, I don't know what they're on. I haven't shopped for PRS, but let's just say $500 or $600, opposed to buying, a custom 24 at a couple $1,000s. So the whole idea that the guitar is dying or going away, I just don't see it. And they also talk about, they say that, the Guitar Hero is gone. And so somebody suggests, Mark Tremonti or Joe Bonamassa or John Mayer. And, the guy that they're talking to, which is George Gruen at the time, shakes his head like, no. He says, you don't see a bunch of kids emulating John Mayer. You don't? Like, where are you? He's huge on Guitar Circles. I mean, he's got Signature Series stuff. They don't make Signature Series stuff and sell it if it's not going to sell. That's stupid. And I mean, you can look at some of these shops like, Musicians Friend or Guitar Center or whatnot, and there's the AFD, the Appetite for Destruction, Epiphone guitar starter kit. Slash is apparently still selling guitars to people. Well, not personally, but people are still buying stuff because of him. There's the John Petrucci range through Ernie Ball. They're available, and I see them in guys' hands. When you're doing videos or looking for videos of lessons and things like that, those guitars are being played by people. And yeah, they're great guitars, but they know about them because there's a Guitar Hero behind it. Look at the Ibanez Gem. Steve Vai's still, a draw. Satriani, still a draw. These guys aren't retiring yet. So, the idea that the guitar is dying a slow death, I don't buy it. I really don't. I just think the landscape's changed. And they talk about Guitar Center being $1.6 billion in debt. Well, that sounds more like bad business than, we can't sell anything. It's just dumb. I don't buy it at all. And I mean, a lot of people have made a big deal about this article, and I just think it's not a big deal at all. If you couldn't find guitar videos or guitar lessons or anything like that online, then okay, maybe. But the fact that it's everywhere. I've got friends on my Facebook page that aren't musicians that are posting, stuff all the time. So it's still out there. People are still playing. Now, they don't mention anything about acoustic guitar, which I don't know what that says. I know that, for a long time everybody was doing the unplugged thing. And, yeah, that's great. Guitar is guitar, as far as I'm concerned. But, is the electric guitar dying? I don't think so. That's just my, 2 cents, 12 cents, 76 cents. Longer video than I intended. But, yeah, I just wanted to give my opinion on it. I think it's a bunch of crap. So until next time, keep having fun, keep playing. I'll see you then.